Welcome everybody to another NNCI webinar, the National Nanotechnology Coordinated Infrastructure. My name is David Gottfried, and I'm the Deputy Director of the NNCI Coordinating Office. This is a semi-monthly seminar series we have from the NNCI. This month's topic is in the education and outreach area, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Ray Tsui to introduce today's speaker. Before I do that, I just want to remind everybody that we do record all of these webinars, and they are on our YouTube channel. And you can find that if you Google YouTube and NNCI, we will be the top listing that shows up. So you can go there and look at past webinars and subscribe to the channel and get notified of any future content that comes in. So with that, I will hand it off to Ray.
Thank you, David. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ray Tsui, and I apologize. My camera isn't working, so I don't have video. In any event, I will be your moderator this afternoon. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator at the NNCI site based at Arizona State University, and I'm also the lead for the NNCI's working group for workforce development and community college engagement. This afternoon, I'm happy to have with us two gentlemen from the NIIT, the National Institute of Innovation and Technology. Mike Russo and Robert Weinman, our speakers, will inform us about the NIIT's National Talent Hub. The Talent Hub serves to connect the three important pillars of high-tech workforce: the employers, the learners and job seekers, and academic institutions. The nation's manufacturing competitiveness is a hot topic these days, and the talent pipeline is a key component of that competitiveness. So it's a very timely subject and also an important one for the NNCI sites to learn how we can collaborate with the NNIT. So let me briefly introduce our speakers. Mike Russo is the president and CEO of the NIIT, and he has spent decades in leadership positions in both government and the business sector, developing public-private partnerships for various strategic areas of workforce development, supply chain security, and advanced manufacturing. Mike has led the development of this National Talent Hub, and it's been the culmination of many years of effort. Our second speaker, Robert Weinman, is the Director of Workforce Innovation at the NIIT. He has over 20 years of experience in technical workforce development, working in both academia as well as industry. He is the principal in the development of the NIIT's Talent Hub and making use of his expertise in competency-based learning and deployment of industry training programs. Before I turn the floor over to Mike and Robert, just one final reminder: if you have questions, please type them into the question and answer box, the Q&A area, and we will try to do our best to get to those questions at the end of the seminar. So now, without taking any more of your time, I'll turn it over to Mike. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ray, and thank you, David. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and we're excited to share with you the development of the National Talent Hub. So just really quickly, just a little bit about the Institute. So the mission of the National Institute of Innovation and Technology is to really identify roadblocks to innovation in strategic industry sectors and ensure actions are being taken to eliminate them. When I say strategic industry sectors, it's those that are important to our nation's security as well as our global competitiveness. And so we really rely heavily on industry engagement to identify those risks and really develop methods to mitigate them. So a lot of our work really, all of our work really focuses on three thrust areas, and we have found that These are the areas that really need the most attention, that there's some gaps, if you will. Workforce supply chain security and next generation communications, 5G and beyond. And they're all really interrelated. And what we have found in the last couple of years is that the workforce development, the talent pipeline has really risen to the top when it comes to what we need to continue to lead in innovation. And actually, all three of the categories are interrelated. You can imagine how having a trained workforce and adequate talent pipeline that could, for example, understand risks in the supply chain, understand how to develop technologies related to next-gen communications and develop applications and deploy them, et cetera, could really be addressed well by having a trained workforce. So looking at workforce, that has really taken up a lot of and really most of our activities to date, as again, there's people addressing various components of those three sectors, or those three thrust areas, I should say. So workforce, if you look at how today's technology really drives everything that we touch and do today, and the implications of that when it comes to workforce and talent pipeline, one could realize why it could be so important. And there's no way that we can maintain leadership in these strategic industry sectors unless we have the people to power those industries. There is no doubt that there's a deficit in talent. Employers throughout these strategic industry supply chains have now stated that access to training and retaining talent is a top priority for them. In our current system, there's a lot of great work going on around the country. Various regions, various school systems, universities, et cetera, are doing great work, but it's very fragmented. And really, we're falling short in delivering when it comes to the talent pipeline. So what we're really focused on is developing that national infrastructure to attract and connect the talent to the innovation ecosystem in those strategic industry sectors, from R&D through commercialization. All the work at the Institute that I mentioned really bolts up into what we call the National Talent Pipeline Development Initiative. And again, we're developing a nationally integrated system or infrastructure to connect industry, education, and job seekers. Our approach really is fundamentally a competency-driven approach, whereby we can translate competencies that are required by industry with curriculum and individual skills. And really, those are our three stakeholder groups: employers and / jobs, job seekers or the workforce, those that want to ladder up that are already in the workforce, and the education system and training providers. And what our system has done, what we have, our approach has been, is really to develop a portal, if you will, that leverages the advanced data analytics and dynamic, ongoing, regular industry engagement to improve access to and alignment between careers, training, and job seekers, those three stakeholder groups. This is really the only truly integrated, comprehensive approach to developing a talent pipeline, which is driven by ongoing dynamic industry engagement. And this graphic represents what that cycle looks like. So we engage industry, so there's constant signaling. So when the ever-changing demands of the tech sector require different job competencies, our system picks them up. Our database then we leverage the database that is anchored by those competencies, and that's what matches individual skill sets with careers and needed training. And it's a cyclical operation in that signaling is constantly fed by what's coming out of the pipeline, the connection to training providers, and what industry requires. And I'm just going to check in with you. Can everyone still hear me? I hope so.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I was recently in a DoD conversation, and they dropped off, and I didn't even know. So, the NIT, the talent hub. So, what really is the talent hub? So, again, think of it as the database that really brings those three stakeholder groups together, and through that interaction allows us to ensure that curriculum is aligned with industry and employer requirements, as well as credentials and certifications are aligned with those needs as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the development of most of this infrastructure has been through the NSF ATE program, and we have a very close partnership with DOL ETA when it comes to redesigning unified competency models that that really power our database. Our approach is really threefold, three legs of the stool, if you will. First of all, the infrastructure needed to build and connect the pipeline. So fundamentally, and most importantly, it's the database that I mentioned, the National Talent Hub, the industry engagement process that I mentioned, the way that we align our curriculum around the country with industry, and I'll talk about our competency alignment program in a minute. And then all of that is leveraged to ensure that there's alignment beginning in K-12 all the way up through higher education and adult and veterans training programs, ensuring that what educators provide, training programs are aligned with industry requirements. And then the mechanism to scale the initiative, it's through regional partnerships, partnerships with academia, partnerships with organizations, entities such as the NNCI, and then also investment from the public and private sector. So think of it as a national infrastructure that can be deployed regionally based on economic development priorities and with the help of regional entities. Robert, my colleague, is going to talk a little bit more how this works, how the portal works, but in essence, what we've done is develop that unified competency model, and through that common coding, we're able to drive the development of job profiles, help with the development of job descriptions, profile jobs and align them with training courses, etc. Also, individuals can align their skills in the system based on what's in that database. And all of that also helps us to really ensure that the training programs and education, various courses are aligned with industry needs. I mentioned the curriculum alignment program, the CAP program, if you will, and really that is a process by which we determine the degree of alignment between course curriculum and industry required standards, really knowledge, skills, and abilities. And what our going through our CAP process means is that our system recognizes the degree of alignment, and we're able to inform you or course providers, I should say, as to the degree of alignment. So if they wish to know when there's a change in a requirement by an industry, they can adopt additional curriculum or curriculum changes in their curriculum, or they could decide to work directly with one individual employer in a region. They can be part of an economic development strategy to meet the needs of potential employers coming in the area and working with state institutions, et cetera. So really what we're able to do is through our process, we are able to make courses visible to industry, employers, and individuals when there's a need to fill gaps or a need to align degree work with specific industries or jobs. It's really handy when it comes to learn and earn models where there are specific gaps and people need to fill gaps in their skills profile. And the benefits really are that course providers don't have to knock on the doors of employers. You get regular, ongoing dynamic signaling, and that's especially important today with the changes in technology. And it helps match those courses to those seeking training. So that's that link to students and employers. So really what we do in our process is individuals versus common matching tools use job postings, if you will. Well, through a much more detailed process that has proficiency levels, et cetera, we actually profile jobs so we know what's really required. We identify programs that may be aligned, and we make sure that the curriculum is also profiled, and then we can determine gaps in that curriculum. And then students, instead of, I'll call it hunting and pecking on the internet, trying to find a course based on nomenclature, they can actually go into our system and find out where to go to meet their needs. And the benefits of our process, our CAP process, are really from an educator perspective is that we create more value for students. So the bottom line is that we shine a bright light on your courses or courses that are aligned with actual student requirements. So there's increased awareness and participation, which is super important today. The industry engagement is automatic. It's automated through our system. And again, that alignment happens through the system. And then students that actually take courses, those that are engaged in the system, they are provide assurances that they are linked with, those courses are linked with the needs of industry. And in fact, through the system, it doesn't cost the student anything. They can establish a lifelong learning profile, a skills profile, and be able to use career mapping tools to align with companies that could potentially be exciting to them and know where to go to get training. And so some of the key benefits, again, are it's a national infrastructure versus that fragmented approach to ensure that constant access and delivery services within one framework. Now, while it is a national system, again, it does support regional, state, and national efforts as well. So individual states could bolt into the system. Regions can bolt into the system. And it is automated again versus knocking on doors. And then there is that dynamic industry engagement process to keep that database fresh. I mentioned advanced data analytics to determine degree of alignment. Again, I mentioned that previously, as well as the lifelong learning profiles, the career mapping tool, and the access to employers that it provides to individual participants. And it really serves as a gateway for talent to employers and course providers. So go in, establish a profile, and you're live in the system. Now, how are we operationalizing the Talent Hub as we speak? So first of all, the three stakeholder groups establish the profiles in the system, as I mentioned, and that's the gateway into the connections. Now, we do have the national USDOL contract to scale and stand up apprenticeships, registered apprenticeship programs throughout the semiconductor and nanotechnology supply chain. So we are the national lead there. And companies or individuals that are interested, again, establish profiles in the system, and then we facilitate a process that actually is very conducive to the tech sector. We also have programs that connect our returning service members and veterans into the same system. And so companies that are interested in getting their hands in what we see as very valuable and diverse population, again, their gateway is by joining the system. And now we're working on ways to get all returning service members, at least providing them the opportunity to set up their individual profiles in the system to take advantage of this. Then we also have a career readiness program, which is very important today given the COVID pandemic, and it's really focused on underserved and underrepresented populations because we have to broaden the pipeline. We're so short today. And also with all those that have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, it's a learn and earn model where we can very quickly and efficiently work with regional providers to get people on the path to valuable careers, but initially with those entry-level tech positions. And that is a gateway to could be registered apprenticeships or continuing their education. And then I'm almost done here, and we're going to do a tour of the portal. Some of the additional services that we offer are, we have a career link, so individuals can actually not only map their path, but get linked directly to employers where their profiles align. We also have a course ability to curate courses within the system and facilitate online learning academies, virtual job fairs, LMS capabilities and services, and we also are able to integrate cybersecurity competencies within our competency model to ensure that those going through the system are meet the needs of the requirements of really a more secure supply chain. As far as broadening the pipeline, I mentioned that we're targeting underserved populations. You know, we take an approach that we look at it from various personas. So whether they're parents that are looking for a shift or a new career, those going through the current education system that are young, coming out of high school, veterans or people that are looking to start a new career, or returning citizens. You know, right now there's a lot of folks with the changes in incarceration policies that are looking to potentially start careers. And so that's another example of those that are, we really provide a great pathway for all those personas. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Robert, who's going to go through the portal, give you a tour of the portal so you can see what we've developed and hopefully perk your interests. So with that, I think I have to stop sharing as yes. So I did, Robert. So you're on. Robert, you think you should have control, correct? I hope you hear me, Robert. Do you?
Robert, your mic is muted.
Yeah, sorry, I had to bounce out. I lost connectivity. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, great. So sorry about that. I had to bounce out and bounce back in. So let me share screen. Great. Can everyone see all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so briefly, what we'll show you here is just the infrastructure that supports everything that Mike was talking about, and it's our talent hub. So this is it's a consumer-facing talent hub that's really designed to get maximum engagement from the individual talent. At the same time, it's a symmetric design, which means that it's connecting for the first time all three stakeholders under one standard, which is a competency-based standard. So if you look at the screen here before we even sign in, you should be able to see that we connect job seekers or talent, training providers, which is most of us on the call today, and then employers. So what happens is that all of these entities here, these three entities here, have different front-facing documents and data that ties to them. So job seekers have resumes, training providers have course catalogs and descriptions, employers have job descriptions. What we've done is said you can still continue to use those tools, but those are highly nuanced and often not refreshed very often. Plus, they tend to have filtered information. So a job seeker is not going to always include all their experience, but whether it be education or work-related experience in their resume. They're going to filter out what they think is going to be relevant depending on who their audience is. What this does, by unifying them all under one competency model, all that information, all that experience can be available, and it can also be fully transparent so that you can see the true value proposition of a course, the true value proposition of an individual job seeker, or from the employer's perspective, how do you match up to for what they're looking for as far as competencies to perform in that job. I'm going to go ahead and sign in, but any individual can create an account here and sign in. And I've got kind of like a unique status where I can come in as a system administrator. But what I want to show you here is what an individual member might see. So if I go here, I'm just going to pull in as a member. So this would be individual talent. The first thing they see is they have a stepper. And the stepper allows them to get familiar with the dashboard and with some of the features in the Talent Hub. But it's always encouraging them. It's an interactive design, so it's always encouraging them to add depth to their proficiencies and their competencies, but also to utilize some of the tools. So as I move through this stepper, you can see that it says, hey, let your dashboard be your guide. You can click here and it gives you a short tutorial about the dashboard. You can go to the next step and it says, learn how to manage your skills. Same thing, I can click here and it'll walk you through how to manage your skill profile, that lifelong learning profile that Mike had talked about. And go to the next one, how to search for jobs. So this talks about our unique method of how we can match you up with jobs that might not already be on your radar. Right now, when you're doing job seeking, you're basically depending on the nuances of titles, job titles and stuff like that. You have to know those titles to find the jobs. We have a unique way of saying that in addition to those jobs, based on your skills profile, there's a bunch of other jobs that might be a good match. And then finally, it talks about how, most importantly in this audience here, is how to search for training. So you might find that you have a target job, but it's way out in left field, and you've got a skills gap. So based on that skills gap, you can click on that skills gap, and it will recommend training programs that can address that skills gap. That's just a little brief overview, but I'll show you the dashboard that we've developed and we're continuing to develop. So you see an oops here. So we have an integration with Google Maps. We're doing a slight upgrade on that. But we also have some other elements here that are really important. So number of skills that this individual has profiled is 170. Notifications are based on those skills. they can go ahead and they can share their profile publicly, or they can just have their profile so that only they can see it as they're doing career building. Also, they can, this is what I was talking about with this radars. Here I am, here's my skills profile, but within reach are many other jobs that I might not have considered. In addition to that, they can go up here and they can do research. So they can tap into researching careers and industries and see where they might be a good fit. But at the sweet spot of this is their skills, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second here, so I'll bounce over to that. And we'll actually work right from the dashboard here. Right here is my top jobs. So my top jobs is saying, based on your skills profile, we find that these jobs here are actually a really good match for you. So you can expand this bubble out and say, let's find out what these are, right? Clicking on one of those jobs, it actually gives me the job description. So this is a current job posting as an operator technician out of Milpitas. And if I scroll down here, I can see the usual job description, but what's really unique about our process is here is view the job gap. So what is my gap for this job? And then more importantly, more significant to the NNCI is view training options. I can click here and I can say, look, you are a 75% match for this job, which is actually pretty high. But if you take this one course in collaborative robotics, you will actually have a 91% match for this particular job. So this actually shows you who's a training organization that offers that. It's Wake Tech Community College, and it brings you from a 75% match to a 91% match. So then I can go to the course catalog and pull up this ATR Collaborative Robotics Programmer course and increase my match. What I want to show you now is like, how does this happen? How do we manage this? So let's go kind of into the meat or the architecture of the system. And forgive me as we go into, we dive deep into the nerd territory here. So I'm going to go into our competency model for you. So what we do here that's unique is, I know everyone here has worked with competency models in the past. What's unique about our system is, in addition to just building the competencies and reviewing them and validating them with subject matter experts, our system is actually tracking, once you have a competency model in place, it's actually tracking the use cases of each competency line item. So if you look here, we can see that even in addition to that, we don't just have technical competencies, we also have foundational competencies, which would be your professional competencies. And we've grouped those into personal effectiveness, academic competencies, and workplace competencies. So let's take a look at some of the technical competencies here. So in this case, we can look at technical competencies, and each one of these competency line items, we're tracking how it's being used. And I can actually right click on this. I can say view usage, and then I can see where is that competency line item being used. So employer job templates, I can currently see 3 job templates are currently using that competency line item. I can also see what courses have that competency line item. So I can see the training courses that are using that competency line item. And I also can go out to course templates, and I also can look at individual members that are using that competency. The idea behind that, though, is if we're tracking this, it's kind of just helping us determine from a supply and demand perspective, what are the competencies that are really being used and are high in demand? What are the competencies that are emerging? And are there some competencies that are maybe high value, but they're not getting high frequency based on the job profiles that we have? That gives us an opportunity to start to analyze, are we not signaling the right competency here? What are the jobs that are using it? And do we need more of those jobs in our system to actually increase the demand for that actual competency line item? So that's a little bit about the competency model and the architecture. What I want to do is I want to show you what that looks like on the employer and training provider side. So I'm going to go in as an employer. Same thing, the employer gets the same type of interface because we have a symmetric design, so everyone has kind of a similar experience where they have steppers and they can walk through and get introduced to elements. They have a dashboard. But what I want to show you here is the skills profile. So every job profile, every job posting is going to be tied to a skills profile. And I can show you what those look like here. So if we go to skills profiles here, and let's take a look at the job posting here. So we'll take a look at a maintenance tech position here. And maintenance tech position, so they have all the usual elements. They have the job description, the additional information for a job posting. And then as we go to the job profiles here, we can take a look at the maintenance tech position. And we have more of the information here as far as like more specific information on the job profile description, related duties and responsibilities, any qualifications that are required, some of the certifications that might be in line to this job, and then you can go to the skills profile here. So in the skills profile, that's what I want to show you. I'm going to show you that in the report so you can see what that looks like here. So in a skills profile, if I'm adding one as an individual, I'm just going to throw in a test here for you. I can start to use that competency model that we looked at, and I can start adding as an employer, what are the skills that are most important to my job? As I add these, I start to mark other additional elements to that. So if I back off this a little bit so you can see this better. The number one thing that they're doing is they can indicate what is the proficiency that they need. So if I flag this particular competency, and let's go to a technical competency for you. If I mark this competency, then I can also indicate what level of proficiency. And this is also unique. Most competency models just have a flag here. So it says, here's a list, check the ones that are important to you. What's important here is we've taken the proficiency level out of the competency statement, made it a separate element so that an employer can signal, do I need just novice, which means like very limited experience, but they understand fundamentals, intermediate, which is practical application, or do I need some higher level, such as an expert, which would mean that they have instructional application. They understand that competency, they can also teach to it, and that really requires some work experience. To look at those proficiency a little bit closer, I can show you the definitions here. So you can see we go all the way from novice up to master. An expert and master level are reserved for individuals that have used that competency in a work-related setting, and that could be something as easy as an apprenticeship, but really where they're getting to a level where they can actually teach to that competency. Going back to this scoring mechanism here, the employer can also indicate what's the frequency. Is this a competency that an individual would use daily, weekly, monthly, or annually? And then more importantly, what is the impact? Is it high, medium, or low? So what this allows the employer to do is actually they can create a pretty thorough or deep competency profile for every job. But the ones that they really want to make sure are signaled to training providers and individual talent, they'll mark as high. And what that would mean is as you start that job or be considered for a candidate for that job, you need to at least meet the requirements for the high impact competencies, meaning that you can hit the ground running. Additional signals we have here, such as related responsibilities, related OJT, and this one here really indicates sense of urgency, right? So you could put in here an indicator of, is this acquired in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? And what that would signal to a training provider is, if it's 0 months, then that means that they have to have that competency when they start. If it's 12 months, it means that that training provider might be able to partner with the employer to teach someone up in that competency area. What I'd like to do is just bounce over to show you how this looks at the training provider level too. So I'll go in as a training manager. Same thing, they have a stepper. And then we'll go to their skill profiles and their courses. So if I look at, I'm going to go ahead and pull in one particular one here. So I'm going to go back to system admin, manage. And let's go down to one of our training providers here. We'll go to Wake Tech. And we'll take a look at some of their course profiles. So here we have 38 course profiles. We continuously add to this. And all these course profiles are related to individual programs that they have. But this is that robotics one that we had take a look at before, when the individual is, they noticed that this would move them from a 75% match to a 91% match. So it's collaborative or cobots programmer. You can see that it has basic information about the course requirements, learning objectives, additional information, contacts, and then we can go into their skills profile. So each one of these courses is tied again to the competency standard. And same thing, they have also tagged some of the soft or professional skills or foundational skills that an individual might learn while participating in this course. But they've also flagged what are the technical skills that they teach to in this actual course. And I can filter that by selected competencies so you can see just those. So now you can see that they also have, in addition to indicating the proficiency level that they teach to, you can also add here a little layer of depth as well, as far as like, what is the teaching method? So in the teaching method, it might be, was the highest level of teaching engagement reading, or was it lecture, meaning that they read and discussed, or was there a demonstration involved, or it actually is this competency reinforced with the lab where they have hands-on experience. Same thing with the assessment method, where they tested just at a written level, or did they actually practice, or did they perform to a standard, or was it like integrated? They used that competency and they also integrated it at a project-based level, which would be the deepest level of engagement. So this is where a 1 week program has one value proposition, meaning that people were introduced at a fundamental level, but they probably were only assessed at a written level, and they were probably only taught at either a reading level or possibly a lab level. But a 2-year program that teaches, say, in mechatronics, to show that they teach to a much higher level of engagement at these competencies. So they would have an advanced proficiency, they did labs, and then their assessment method was probably a project-based level. And you could actually tie that to a program learning outcome or a course learning objective. So how does this all look on the back end? So in the end, what you want to do is you want to start doing gap analysis. You want to start comparing, how does my program match up to a target job? So what we have here is I have a report. We just click on reports, and then we can run this report. So what we're doing here is we're comparing the skills profile from this employer, Global Foundries, for their maintenance tech apprentice. And I'm a college or training provider, in this case, Wake Technical Community College, and I'm comparing 2 of my programs. So what a program is a consolidation of, or an aggregate rather, of all the related courses that are in that program. So you'd pull in all the course profiles, and then that would have a aggregate profile for the program. When I run that, I now get to see, again, the same standard. Let me compress this so you don't see it. You can see this better. So same thing, technical competencies. We can see that the employer is asking for, in supporting manufacturing process design and development, is asking for a proficiency of 2. I can see that the mechanical engineering technician program teaches that to a proficiency of 3. And I can tell that because it shows here that I've got a green arrow and a number 1, which means that they teach 1 proficiency level higher than what's required by the job. The mechatronics certificate, it's a 0, but that's not negative. What that means is that it's an exact match. So the mechatronics certificate actually teaches to a level of 2, so the gap is 0. There's other things that I can add here. So I can go to columns here, and I can say, okay, from the compare profile, I just want to look at the high impact competencies. So based on the employer, what were the high impact competencies that the employer indicated for this job? I type in high. Right now I have 84 competencies. I type in high, and it just indicates the high impact competencies that this employer indicated. And as a training provider, then I can actually look at this and say, am I meeting that? Here's a red area. So this is data analysis and verification. This is where the training provider might go back and say, okay, do we teach this? In which course is it? And to what proficiency level, so that we can signal back to the employer that we are actually a better match for this particular position. There's other things that other elements you can bring in here, such as the comparative profiles. You can add in additional elements. You can add in frequency and other features here. But this gap analysis basically drives everything. And that's what I wanted to show to you folks, is going back to the actual competency model. Here, I think, is the net gain for the NNCI, is we have competencies for the industry and industry-wide. We also worked with a group about 1.5 years ago to develop the competency model for semiconductor and nanotechnology. So here you have industry sector, and then currently we have 88 competencies that have been indicated that are exclusive to semiconductor manufacturing. We actually had over 100 competencies that we worked with, but some of those were more industry-wide, so they rolled up into advanced manufacturing. But at the semiconductor and nano level, we currently have 88 competencies, and we're adding to that as we speak. So we're working with the MNTEC to build in some of the competencies that they recently developed. We're also exploring some of the work that Ray and Robert Ehrman have done to see if we can intersect with some of the competencies that they've developed. And we're also working with Mike Lasecki in the future of work for STEM-related cross-disciplinary competencies that we can also build in. But this is where we could actually do a profile of curriculum that's been developed within your network, or curriculum that's tied to specific equipment that's been developed in your network, and start doing profiles of those so that employers can start to see at their more advanced positions, so like a maintenance tech level 3 or a process tech level 3 or a process engineer level 1, where you would have specific curriculum and specific equipment that they could access to actually train up a special segment of their employees that they want to advance to that new position. So you could do the gap analysis based on their positions in the system, and you could also reach out to them and say, we have a perfect match where we can train a cohort of your employees to bounce them up from a process tech level 2 to a process tech level 3. The nice thing is all this work is the last thing I'll say, all this work is tied back to work that employers are already doing. So we already have the connections with talent acquisition teams. We have the connections with the training and development teams. And we have connections with the hiring managers and the people that are actually doing the work, so that every time they post a job, that job posting ties back to a competency model. And once that profile is in the system, you can access that profile and start doing analysis on how does your curriculum and your equipment tie back to that profile to help them advance an individual from one position to the next.
So Robert, I think you have to stop share screen. Is that right?
Yeah, let me figure that out. I think I just saw it. There it is. Have I stopped?
I think so.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to go back to just have a couple of slides and we can jump into a conversation here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
So just a couple of slides. So exploring some opportunities here, right, to leverage the Talent Hub. So we already mentioned that, as we turn on and scale the use of the hub, it will drive students to sites, which is, driving traffic to sites is important. Also, we have opportunity to facilitate internships and job sharing opportunities. We can offer those opportunities within the sites. So when people log in and are interested in such opportunities, because of we explained how we're able to match, right? There's a big potential there to provide that, that matching capability within that single uniform national platform and focus it really on high-tech advanced manufacturing, nanosector. Employers and individuals establish those profiles and express their interest. So sign in, create a profile, and say we're interested, and then that can happen within the hub. Then also asset sharing. One could imagine how we could assist and use the hub's database to assist you in promoting the assets that you have, right? And even create a program around awareness. So community colleges and students can be driven, if you will, your way to identify, what are university assets that are aligned with their individual requirements and program requirements. And we understand, obviously, that assets take various forms. So whether it's equipment or curriculum that could be added to our curated content database, staff expertise, et cetera. So again, one could imagine how we could within our architecture, enable that in this national infrastructure. And as far as just to key up our discussion here, I think we're right on time, is, I'd like to hear from you, or we'd like to hear from you either now or even in the future as more people have a chance to view this. What do you see as potential opportunities? What can we learn from, and how do we connect with other platforms, for example, the Nano Hub? And then as we come up with ideas, or you have thoughts, what's the best way to channel those ideas and engage your network? Is it through the coordinating office, et cetera? So with that, Ray and David, I think maybe we could, I'm going to stop sharing and we could just have a conversation with the time left.
Well, thank you very much, Mike and Robert. We have a lot of good information there. You folks have really built a pretty comprehensive system. So I want to encourage the audience, if they have questions, please enter them into the Q&A box. In the meantime, maybe I'll get started here. So my understanding is that the NIT has started pilot programs.
Yes.
And maybe based on the experience so far you've had with those pilot programs, can you suggest to us what would be some, I wouldn't call them, some initial steps that the research universities in the NNCI could take? Is it a matter of talking to our regional community colleges, or maybe go through you folks as a go-between? What do you suggest as a good way to get started?
Yeah, and you could jump in, Robert. I thought that was a design on your shirt, by the way. I was the anyway the so yeah, we do have pilots, and so initially when we started developing the Talent Hub, we engaged as an academic partner, SUNY Polytechnic Institute, and we've worked with several community colleges in New York and they're in our system, et cetera. We've deployed the use of our infrastructure in several programs there, but that is where we really kind of did the initial design. Now we're beginning to actually deploy it, and our intention is to deploy the infrastructure more in a statewide, holistic way in the Greater Research Triangle in North Carolina. So we currently have two large community colleges in North Carolina as participants in the Talent Hub. They've gone through the competency alignment program. That's Wake Tech and Fayetteville Technical Community Colleges. And so we have, I think in Wake Tech, we have 40 programs in the system now. We intend to fully deploy the GAINS program, the Growing Apprenticeships in Nanotechnologies and Semiconductors in North Carolina. And also, we intend to first do a full launch of the Service Member Engagement Program through Fort Bragg there. So that's more of a, how do you take what you've developed and begin to deploy it on a more of a larger region or statewide basis. And then we've worked with employers, and this is more from a pilot perspective, more employer to training enterprise up in Oregon. So in addition to that, we have a relationship with the M&T network. So that's, I believe, plus or minus 25 colleges around the country focused on nano. And so we're working with them now to make the hub available to those institutions. So that's where we are as far as pilots. And so I would suggest that there's a couple of ways, Ray, that we could move forward. Is that if there's institutions that have a particular need or would like to partner early on because of a regional need, because of regardless. I mean, you've seen we've presented on what we have here, what to deploy. Reach out to us. They can reach out through you, and we can bring them in and begin to bolt them into their programs, into the system. The other way we could really work together is, at the end of the presentation, we talked about some potential to leverage our hub in our architecture in other ways that would potentially help you, whether it's the internships, job sharing, or if you wanted to add a component of what we're doing right now, add to it the asset share. You can easily see how that could be pulled into the database and pulled into the matching architecture that we have. So those are some thoughts and ideas, and really we're here for you, right? We're here to really advance this very important sector in the U.S. and ensure we can continue to innovate. So we're almost at your service.
Thank you, Mike. I'm waiting to checking to see if there are any questions.
I think one of the net gains too is really that, with the unique labs and equipment that you folks have and the curriculum that's tied to that, Right now, we've been laser focused on the gateway positions for technicians. So you see that in the competencies that are actually flagged, and we've been very focused on apprenticeships, the learn and earn model to do that. But one of the things that we are getting signals from employers is once they're in and they've got that talent, how do we build a stronger partnership with training providers so that we can teach, do boot camps or 2-week programs. Even in remote settings, how can we actually skill that person up and integrate that into a cohesive way of advancing the talent once they're in? Because as we all know, right now employers have kind of lowered the threshold a little bit on how they're accepting talent, and they're relying on the structure of apprenticeships like we've developed to baseline that talent as they come in. But there's a even more greater need now to get access to skilling those individuals up with some of the fundamentals and getting them more hands-on knowledge and more hands-on experience to equipment. So that's something that we can help with as far as like identifying those gaps for that progression within the company, and then pointing out the curriculum and equipment that's available nationally that they could access.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the community colleges struggle when it comes to access to equipment. Even if they're lucky enough to partner with tool and equipment providers, they can't maintain it. They can't keep up with the software requirements. There's security issues that they can't deal with, et cetera, et cetera. And if I'm a university and I have an electron microscope and I don't mind sharing it, making sure that that's available as a shared asset is really, really important. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because that's what you're all about. But we potentially could help to make that even more visible.
Mike, we do have some questions now entering, so maybe I'll just repeat them, and maybe either you or Robert can address it. First one is there a cost to access the Talent Hub?
Yeah, so there's different stakeholders. From an individual perspective, there's no cost at all. When you say access, can you get into the hub and kind of tour the hub? Yes. If you're an educational institution and you want to participate in the hub, have your courses profiled, added to the system, et cetera, have full, be able to fully utilize the hub, that there is a cost. It's $2,500 a year. It's very cost effective. And that allows, we would profile up to 5 programs, and courses can be more than, courses really apply to more than one program, right? But basically, that's an annual fee, and that's to really help to maintain the portal. But that gets you full access. There's an agreement that one would sign. It allows you to market to potential students the degree of industry alignment. You can offer students the ability to establish those lifelong learning profiles, do skills assessments, the career mapping tool. All your students would have access to that, et cetera, as part of that. And then there's the employer connection piece that comes with that. So that's all included in that fee.
Thank you, Mike. 2 questions regarding the GAINS program. First one is, does it use the same database infrastructure? And then a second question is, what type of apprenticeship are you envisioning for the GAINS program?
Mm-hmm. I'll take that first, and Robert, you can chime on. So it does leverage the same infrastructure. So basically, if I'm an employer and I'm interested in standing up an apprenticeship program or expanding an existing apprenticeship program, the first thing you would do is you would open up an account in the hub, and you would add the positions that you're looking to fill in those that would be involved in the apprenticeship program. We have staff of experts, subject matter experts, and experts in apprenticeship programs that would engage you in what's a little bit more unique of a process that's tailored to the tech sector, and ease the administrative burden on the company and make it's a competency-based versus an hours-based approach. That said, what we do is we then take some of that data and enter it into the US DOL systems that are required, right? But those involved don't have to worry about any of that. So you get access to the hub and its greater benefits, and don't have to worry to a great degree about the other administrative responsibilities that would be the norm. What was the second part of your question? Was Ray?
What types of apprenticeships?
Yeah. So we are under contract for DOL. We are focused on strategic industry sector supply chains, but more specifically semiconductor, which is a narrow set of nanotechnology, but nanotech. And as you all know well, nanotech takes on many forms, right? And so any industry, any employer that would fit within the nano/semiconductor supply chain /sectors, right? Raise their hand, express interest. And then what we do is we would look at existing standards, existing content, anybody that potentially has already worked within the region in standing up apprenticeships, et cetera. And then we would work with the employer to establish that program. So on the nano side, for example, we have several that have already raised their hand in biomanufacturing. So that's not semiconductor, but that's within our national contract. And Robert, maybe you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I guess just that, we have several apprenticeships that we've already developed and launched, and those are registered apprenticeships either with the state or U.S. DOL. And those have included, one fab is a maintenance tech position at one of our fab partners. We've also had operator technician position, engineering equipment tech position. And we've also got an equipment manufacturer that we're working with now as far as an apprenticeship. So, and those standards, the apprenticeships have their own standards, and we've been able to crosswalk with those standards. So we are using the same architecture that we have here, and we're building in some of those apprenticeship standards so that it aligns, so that they can actually report out that they've met those standards, both with their on-the-job training, but also with the related technical instruction, which the training providers such as community colleges would provide.
Thank you, Robert. Well, I think we finished right on time. It's 2:00. I think there's a lot of information to digest, and I'm sure folks that are attending the webinar right now will probably think of additional questions to come on. So we will certainly be happy to pass those on. Hang on a second. There's one more question. What is the duration of the apprenticeship program?
It's not hours-based, it's competency-based. So basically, individuals coming in are evaluated, and training is provided based on individual needs. Robert, anything to add?
Yeah. It's a 16 to 24-month apprenticeship model that we're using. The most important thing is, so the apprenticeship structure is designed in a way that it doesn't shorten the apprenticeship, but what it does, if someone comes in at a higher competency level, which we can assess, they will still go through that 16 to 24-month program, but they will come out much higher than the baseline. So all the apprentices come through and end up with the baseline as a journeyman for that particular apprenticeship. But some of the people that had previous experience, they will actually take higher level courses. So we can show completion for the lower level related technical instruction and actually substitute a higher level of instruction for them. So it creates a structure where you can grab a wider segment of skill and diversity, and put them through a structure where some will advance quicker at a higher level, but though everyone comes out of that at least with the baseline for what it is to be that apprentice.
Great, thank you. David, do you have any additional comments before we wrap up?
No, just want to express my thanks on behalf of the NNCI Coordinating Office. We really appreciate it. And as I said, this recording will go up on the YouTube channel, and hopefully other people will get a chance to take a look at it as well. So I think from our perspective, we're ready to wrap up.
Well, thanks, David. Thanks, Ray, and thanks everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you for attending. Thank you very much.
Be safe,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.